All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Will Ulrich. I am the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service office here in Melbourne, Florida. And I have been out here conducting a storm survey in the Longwood and Lake Mary area to determine the track, strength, and intensity of the tornado that impacted the community this morning, beginning at around 9:36 a.m. The National Weather Service in Melbourne detected a strong thunderstorm that exhibited rotation as it was moving into the Wekiva Springs State Park area, and then it moved into the Wingfield Reserves subdivision, where it produced widespread vegetative damage on the order of EF1 intensity of 85 to 95 miles per hour. As it moved further to the north and east on a track length of approximately 2 miles, it moved into the Whispering Winds subdivision, and Blue Iris Place, which is just down the road from where we are standing, showed some of the most significant damage to structures, where we saw winds estimated of approximately 110 to 120 miles per hour. So that has caused us to rate this particular tornado that impacted the Longwood area as an EF2 tornado, with peak winds currently estimated at 115. Please understand that this is preliminary information, so we are still continuing to conduct our assessment. But based off of what we've seen so far, the National Weather Service in Melbourne can confirm an EF2 tornado impacted the Longwood area. The system crossed Markham Woods Road and continued towards the Lake Mary area, where it crossed I-4 towards Skyline Drive. But beyond that, we have not been able to conduct a full storm survey east of I-4. We will do that after today to determine an exact end point and length of the system. But we do believe that this was the most significant damage from this particular system here in the Whispering Winds subdivision, where again, peak winds of 115 miles per hour occurred at around 9:38 to 9:39 this morning. We believe, again, the tornado touched down with EF1 intensity at approximately 9:36 a.m. this morning. With that said, I'll go ahead and take any questions.
When did you first know that it was coming?
So we had been tracking the circulation all morning, believe it or not, all the way in Tampa's area. There was a thunderstorm that was exhibiting rotation. Once we saw that circulation tighten up at around 9:30 this morning in the Wekiva Springs State Park, our forecasters issued a severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible tag at 9:32. And then that circulation continued to tighten, and that's what caused us to issue a tornado warning at 9:34 this morning. But understand that this circulation, this storm, the supercell thunderstorm, was actually exhibiting signs of rotation when it moved off of the Gulf of Mexico earlier this morning. But it really tightened up as it moved into the Seminole County area.
Question here. Potentially EF2 tornado. Can you explain to viewers what you saw when you were
Sure.
doing your assessment?
Yes. What type of damage assessment we do to determine that is an EF2. The most important thing is people need to understand we don't have observations from the tornado itself, because often the winds are so strong in a tornado that a lot of equipment that we would use to measure wind speeds end up getting damaged. So we have no direct observations from the wind. So what we do is we have to let the damage tell the story, and that's what we were out here to do today. And some of the most significant damage that we saw was here in the Whispering Winds subdivision, where we saw a number of homes that had portions of their roofs peeled back, and off of Blue Iris Place we saw a structure that nearly collapsed in on itself. Those structures, combined with that home off of Blue Iris Place, increased our confidence that we had an EF2 tornado that occurred here in the Longwood area. So we let the damage tell the story, and aside from all of the number of oak trees that we saw down throughout the neighborhood, the most impressive damage, again, we saw to those homes off of Blue Iris Place.
As far as touching down as an EF1 and then seeing, EF2 damage, talk to us about the rarity of that.
Sure, an EF2 this time of year is considered a rare Florida tornado. In total, generally speaking, 90% of tornadoes that the state of Florida sees are generally EF0 or EF1 tornadoes, which are still potentially damaging, because they too can have winds up to 100 miles per hour. But to see winds of 115 miles per hour or greater is a rare phenomenon for us here in Central Florida. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on mornings like this, where we see enhanced wind shear from a strong cold front moving into the area. We call February and March our tornado season here in Central Florida. Some of our most prolific tornado events in Central Florida have occurred in the months of February and March. And so this was no different. When we see these strong cold fronts move into the area, this is how we get those rare tornadoes, those 1 in 10 tornadoes that we sometimes see in our community.
So one of the things that residents keep saying is that everything was so fast, but thankfully no one was hurt. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. This storm that produced this tornado was moving very rapidly, approximately 35 to 45 miles per hour. So the warning went out at 9:36, and the tornado impacted the community here in Whispering Pines and Longwood just a couple minutes after. So the folks had a couple of minutes to get into their safe room. It was a very short period, but seconds can make all the difference to get into that interior room. And we're very, very grateful, based on our partnership with Seminole County Emergency Management, that we are unaware of any injuries at this time, because so many people heeded that warning that our office issued this morning at 9:34.
So for clarification, 9:34, 2 minutes later, the tornado touches down here.
Correct. Just west or on the eastern edge of the Wekiva Springs State Park. Correct. And then it moved into the Wingfield Reserve subdivision first. Yes.
Will, 120 miles per hour? That's like hurricane wind.
Correct. It's actually the equivalent of a Category 2, Category 3 hurricane, which is, again, very rare to experience those type of winds here. So you're absolutely right. The winds that were experienced in a small area, let's please keep that in mind, a very hyper-focused area, unlike hurricanes, which impact much larger areas, did see winds of up to 110 to 115 miles per hour, which is up to Category 3 hurricane intensity. But as was noted by all of our people that we interviewed today, the winds occurred over a very short period, only approximately 30 to 60 seconds at any one location.
Do you think that, you said people had 2 minutes, and do you think because you're a Floridian, you're used to this, tornadoes, hurricanes, do you think the experience of being a Floridian helped?
I think so, because our community is no stranger to tornadoes. Remember what I told you earlier today, or just now, 90% of the tornadoes that we see generally are the EF0, EF1 variety. So it is these tornadoes we want to make sure people heed those warnings so critically. And we're very happy that it sounds like the vast majority of folks who lived in the communities of Longwood and Lake Mary got that tornado warning and did what they needed to do, which was get away from windows, get away from doors, and stay safe from those violent winds that occurred this morning.
But Floridians are plugged in.
They are, and we're grateful that not just from the phone wireless emergency alerts that went off, but our partners within Seminole County Emergency Management put out our tornado warning. Our partners within the media went live on the air and broadcasted that information so that people understood the severity of what happened this morning.
How many minutes?
To the viewers now about this situation and moving forward.
Sure. This is a reminder that February is the peak tornado season for Central Florida. 1998 was 27 years ago, my apologies, which was the infamous Central Florida tornado outbreak, where we lost 42 lives in the middle of the night on February 22nd and 23rd. In 2007, Groundhog's Day tornado, we saw 21 people die in that particular tornado outbreak. This is the time of year, and the only other time of year that I can think of are when we have hurricanes passing by. That is the other time of year where we look for these strong to violent tornadoes to sometimes accompany hurricanes. These are the type of tornadoes that have us most concerned, and we want to make sure people heed those warnings whenever they receive them so that they can get to the right place at the right time to potentially save their own life. We're very grateful that that happened this morning.
How long was the tornado on the ground? Maybe that.
We believe it was approximately on the ground for at least 5 minutes based off of the start point in Wingfield Reserve, and I still need to get east of I-4, so that's why preliminarily a 1.8-mile track length, approximately 5 to 6 minutes, but I could extend that track length as I get into the industrial area to the east of I-4 after today's press brief.
Do you have an idea of how many trees were brought down?
I do not, no, unfortunately, but however, I know Seminole County Emergency Management are doing aerial surveys that we'll be able to see the greater extent of the damage.
And they also, it was raining this morning. We talked about like the rain wrap.
Rain wrap, yeah.
Impact you guys trying to track this
No, because our radar can not only see just the rain that is falling out of thunderstorms, we can track the rotation. And it is that rotation signature that we saw all the way coming in from the eastern Gulf of Mexico. We saw that effectively move across the state, and as that circulation tightened based on velocity information, we were able to then issue that tornado warning. So while it may have made things more difficult to see on the ground, our radar can still look through the rain and see that circulation very easily.
How long was the swath? How many miles?
1.8 we can confirm, 1.8 miles so far on the ground, but as I said, we do believe it crossed I-4 near Skyline Drive. We need to still go there to determine if it remained on the ground for any additional length of time, and we will be doing that after the conclusion of today's press brief.
Do you know if this area has ever had a tornado like that in this area?
Tornadoes are hyper-local events, right? They're street-level events. So to say this community, I'd have to go back and look and see. But this community, when you talk about Orlando and its surrounding areas, is no stranger to EF2s and EF3 tornadoes. It probably has been a while. I'd have to go back and see when the last time. We'll have to do some research on that. But again, this is the time of year, February and March. The February 1998 tornado outbreak was 7 EF2 and EF3 tornadoes ripped across the community in the middle of the night. And then in 2007, we saw an additional 2 EF3 tornadoes that ripped across the community. This was an EF2 tornado with winds of 115 to 120 miles per hour. So again, it occurs, but they are infrequent. Only about 1 in 10 tornadoes that impact this area go on to become an EF2 or an EF3 tornado. So they are rare.
So what is an EF2, just like in regular terms?
On a scale of 0 through 5, the enhanced Fujita scale allows us to determine the strength of a tornado based off of the damage that we witness. And so this, on a scale of 0 to 5, was an EF2, which has winds anywhere from 110 to as much as 130 miles per hour. Based off the damage we saw, I estimated it to be approximately 115 to 120 on that scale, again, of the enhanced Fujita scale that starts at 0 and goes through 5.
Just to be clear, this was an EF2?
This was an EF2 tornado, correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Seeing the kind of damage that we saw back there, especially that one house you mentioned, when you see that, are you surprised that there weren't any injuries or fatalities?
We are, but we're very grateful there weren't any. However, I heard from a lot of the folks who lived there, and they had just enough time to do what they were supposed to do, which was get into that interior room in their home, away from doors and windows, because we want to keep them away from that glass that could potentially be shattering, or, you know, having a wall or their roof come down on them. Very, very grateful there weren't any injuries today.
In terms of next step, how much of an assessment has been done so far?
This, I would say, approximately 75% of the assessment is complete from the National Weather Service perspective. We're out here just to conduct the strength, to determine the strength. Again, I need to go east of I-4 to determine how long, if any, it continued to be on the ground after it approached Skyline Drive in Lake Mary. That's my next step. But I wanted to get this information out to you all because this is a multi-hour process, as you might imagine.
Well, speak to how. Is it a miracle? No one was hurt?
We're very grateful, Meredith, that no one was injured today, and I think that speaks to the resiliency of our community, who are used to getting those alerts on their cell phone or watching television. We are no stranger to severe weather here, and I think that experience helped save some people's lives, and we're very grateful for that.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how fortunate?
I would say very fortunate. So 6 to 7. I appreciate it, everyone. I'll be available on the side if any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.